You know, one of the things I love about your story is the fact that you mentioned your authentic self, because this is really important. The foundation of this starts from the base chakra. And I love your story as well because of how being grounded is incredibly important to you. But it's also about ensuring that your vibe attracts the right tribe. Because irrespective of what we're going through, where we work, that's always going to change. And you and I, in our personal conversations, often talk about the a third rule. So the first third, and it's not a hierarchy. It's really, it's not a vertical hierarchy. It's quite horizontal. But the first third are going to love you. They're going to vibe with you and feel drawn to you inexplicably, immediately almost. And they're going to love you no matter where you work or where you live or what you do. And the second third will be quite indifferent. In fact, it might even be someone that you've walked past a million times on the same street, yet you've never noticed each other. And perhaps it's someone that you may know vaguely because they may have gone to school with your brother or sister. You won't even get each other's names right. Neither of you are going to go to sleep that night thinking, oh, I'm so glad I ran into, what was their name again? And then you've got the last third who are never going to vibe with you, like you, even resonate with your truth or your words in any way, shape or form. So if you're wanting to be liked by everyone or wanting to even connect with everyone, you're essentially wasting your time on 2/3 of the world that are never really going to support you. And so it's really so interesting.
True. But interesting, and it's interesting that this is making me reflect now. When I was younger, I think, and even when I moved to Australia, I think I always knew somehow without even knowing that I needed to vibe higher with different types of people in order to get out of the sort of, perhaps no, well, I guess it is poverty consciousness around the family. As much as we still had an okay life, it wasn't that raised vibrational frequency of really immersing and attracting and that type of lifestyle. So that, that vibing thing is quite interesting and neat. And yeah, I think it takes a lot of knowing what you really want to do and being able to say yes to yourself and no to other people, the boundaries. Boundaries, actually, that was, I texted you actually with, what was the thing about boundaries? They're one of those things that you only miss them when they're gone. It's in your workbook. How does that quote go?
Oh, I love this from the workbook. That's right. I got that text. Yeah. Boundaries. They're funny old things. You only ever need them when you've lost them.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And your base chakra sets the foundation for your boundaries, I believe, for a couple of reasons. One is because we need to know how to manage our energy, and that often comes with saying no when we're tired or when attending something or liaising with someone is not necessarily in our highest alignment. But I also believe that we are much more defined by the things we don't necessarily do versus the things that we do. So boundaries are very, very important. And our family teaches us boundaries, whether they had them and we didn't feel safe or whether they were too strict and we felt too constricted.
See, and that's where the boundary thing, because there was always such, like, my Baba, beautiful, because she's such a kind woman, was almost a martyr. She would always be the one that would just do everything. And she was tired and people come over and they'd eat and then we'd just be, I remember as a young girl, just doing the dishes with her over and over. And it was almost like, they were better than us. They came, they ate, we cooked, they left. It was
interesting. It's an interesting archetype. And you wanted to edit your story and say, hey, this isn't who I want to be anymore. And I really understand that because I have a similar one with my own mother and my own family. The story that you were sharing before about, no, all women in our family have hips. Well, the story that I grew up with was, well, you're a woman. Of course you're going to serve. Of course you're going to cook. Of course you're going to. And I really struggled with that because I grew up in Australia where it was all about equality and equal rights. And I went to school and I was academic and even cerebral. And I'd come home to, I guess, a lot of primal connections to traditions from my family. And so there was a disparity between my personal values, my parents' values, and then there was, okay, I chose you guys for a reason. How can we still connect?
But you know what is absolutely incredible about this is now my grandfather passed away, who was beautiful. Like, I loved him so much. I mean, that was probably one of the most traumatic things I've ever dealt with is my grandpa passing away. But my Baba and Guido, they weren't grandfather Guido. They weren't, they were sort of together. She was in the house. He was on the farm. There wasn't really much, but I guess, I speak to her now. It's just what they did. They were the next farm. And this is really important. And we only spoke about this the other day, and she doesn't even realize how much inspiration she brings to me, is that she was saying that had she been able to go to school or study when she was younger because they didn't have the money to get her to town or whatnot, is that they probably wouldn't, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be here and that this is okay, but she might have been with someone different, doing something different, and having more opportunities. And you know what's really special, and this just comes to my mind now, is that when she was a little girl, she wanted to go to Australia. Now, I never knew that till she came here. So her whole life was a farmer's wife, being the martyr, cleaning, doing this and that, and never traveled. Didn't even have a driver's license to leave the farm. So really just was on the farm. One of her friends, I remember popping by here and there, and we'd have relatives, but it was, it had to have been a bit lonely.
I can imagine.
Especially when my grandpa, he wasn't a big communicator. They didn't have a, let's sit on the couch and hold hands and watch a movie. They're married their whole lives, but there was no, real sort of love. But what she says now is, you almost have a duty to, in the nicest way. You're young, you're smart, you're beautiful. You go and you do what you want, because perhaps I didn't get to live that life, but by me living like that allows you now to live yours. She would have never said that 20 years ago. Couldn't connect it, couldn't relate. Even in relationships, she gives the best advice. She's like, all the things that she didn't do now, she can now impart, so that to make sure that myself and my sister can experience that.
Can experience less suffering, less unhappiness.
Exactly. And happiness. And I mean, it makes her feel so good and lights her up when she sees me getting called to partner with things or speak at places and be doing all these different things that she couldn't experience, but now to see me, it's almost like she is. And for her to come to Australia, when she's come twice, never traveled and then's come to Australia twice. I guess my point in that is, when you live your dreams, you think, I felt horrible because I was so close. I'm the youngest one, and I felt so bad moving to Australia to study. And she would call and say, "Oh, are you going to, come back this year?" And I'm thinking, I've got 3 years left of this degree. I'm not coming back. And when she came to visit, she goes, "Don't worry about coming. I understand. This is amazing."
And she wouldn't ever have visited had you not
Never,
lived here.
never. And she's so grateful. She's come twice, and she's so grateful. But had I just the fear of leaving, taken on her fear and went back for her, I wouldn't have been true to myself, and she would have never had that experience or being able to see the fullness of my life now. You know how proud she is that her daughter, like, she lives in Saskatchewan still, and her daughter her granddaughter rather, is in Australia, living by the beach, moving to Hawaii. I mean, that's something to be pretty proud of.
Absolutely.
And to know that I'm healthy, I'm safe, I don't do drugs, I barely drink, that's a pretty, I'm doing okay.
Well, you're not, you're actually
I have a
thriving.
business and,
That's the whole point of this chakra. You're not just surviving, you're actually thriving.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.